My Apple Find My pinged, and my boyfriend's dot started moving away from the rooftop I had rented for him. So I kept my smile glued on and stayed quiet. The worst part was, his location was the only thing that made sense that night, and I still did not understand why. My name is Genevieve. I am 30 years old, and I work as a project manager for a construction company. I had been with Wilder for 4 years, the kind of 4 years where people start calling you a unit. We met at a friend's game night, moved in together after a year and a half, and had the same circular conversation 100 times, someday soon, after we save a little more, after work calms down. He was the one who sent me ring screenshots first. He was the one who said he did not want a courthouse thing. He wanted something that felt like a story. He liked to tease me about it, too, saying, when it happens, you'll know, and I'll do it right. So when his 30th birthday got close, I decided I would stop waiting for him to write the story, and I would write it myself. I told myself it was romantic, not desperate. I told myself it was modern, not embarrassing. I told myself that if two people love each other, it does not matter who gets on one knee. And I believed it because Wilder had been saying for months that he felt pressure, that his dad kept asking, that he wanted to feel proud when it happened. I thought I was giving him relief. I thought I was giving us both a moment we could keep. I planned it for almost 3 months. I rented a rooftop space downtown, not too flashy, but clean and pretty string lights, a view of the skyline, enough room for family without feeling like a conference. I coordinated with his sister, his mom, his grandmother, his best friend from college, and a handful of people who had become my people through him. I ordered his favorite cake, the ridiculous one with the dark chocolate frosting that makes your teeth hurt. I had a photographer, but I told everyone it was for birthday photos, not the main thing. I bought a ring, not because he demanded it, but because I knew what he liked: simple, classic, platinum, nothing loud. I saved for it quietly, cutting back, packing lunches, pretending I did not notice how often Wilder picked restaurants that were a little too expensive for no reason. The plan was easy. He thought we were going to a small birthday dinner with just his mom and sister. When we got upstairs, everyone would jump out, surprise, hugs, cake. Then, after the first hour, when he was warm and happy and surrounded by people who loved him, I would do a toast and ask him to marry me. I pictured his laugh first, that soft, shocked laugh, then his eyes going wet, then him pulling me up and saying yes like it was obvious. The night started exactly like the movie in my head. Wilder wore the navy shirt I like, the one that makes his shoulders look broader than they are. He kept tapping the steering wheel on the drive there, excited, singing along to the radio, clueless. When we walked into the hotel lobby, he said, "This is fancy, Jen, what did you do?" I smiled, kissed his cheek, and lied smoothly, "It's just a birthday, relax." In the elevator, he held my hand and squeezed like he was grateful. And I remember thinking, this is it. This is the last normal minute before our whole life changes. The doors opened, and the rooftop lights spilled out, and everyone yelled surprise, and Wilder's face lit up exactly like I hoped. He hugged his mom so hard her feet lifted, then his sister, then his grandmother, then he turned and hugged me like I had done something perfect. He kept saying, you did this for me, and I felt my chest fill up with that quiet pride that makes you want to cry, but you do not because it would ruin your makeup. Quick real-life pause, this part is for me. Some nights I'm editing and I want to quit, but then I see your comments and I keep going. Tap like, subscribe, and tell me your city, state, or country. Okay, continuing. An hour in, the photographer drifted close and gave me a subtle nod. His sister slid next to me and whispered, "You're really doing it, huh?" Her smile looked supportive, but her eyes flicked toward Wilder like she was checking the temperature in the room. That should have been my first warning, but I was already committed. My heart was already sprinting. I clinked my glass. The sound cut through the chatter and people turned, smiling, expecting a birthday toast. Wilder grinned at me, cheeks pink from drinks, eyes bright. I started simple, talking about how he makes every place feel like home, how he shows up for people, how the last 4 years made me believe in calm love, not dramatic love. His mom was already dabbing at her eyes. His grandmother's hands were folded like she was praying. His best friend had his phone up, recording, laughing like he could not wait to replay this later. I reached into my jacket pocket and felt the ring box, small and heavy like a secret. I took one step closer to Wilder. Then I went down on one knee. For half a second, his smile stayed in place, like his face did not get the memo. Then it changed. Not to tears, not to shock, to something sharper. He took a step back. I held the box up anyway, because my brain was still trying to force the scene to follow the script. "Wilder," I said, my voice shaking just enough to sound real, not rehearsed. Will you marry me? Silence hit the rooftop like a power outage. Wilder stared at me, then glanced around at everyone, like he was looking for an exit sign. His jaw tightened. His eyes flicked to his best friend's phone, still recording. Then he looked down at me again, and his expression hardened the way it does when he thinks someone is trying to control him. He said, "Are you serious?" I laughed, weak and confused, because I thought he was teasing. I thought he was about to say yes. Instead he said, "You're doing this right now. On my birthday, in front of everybody." I felt my face go hot. I said, "I thought this would be meaningful. You said you wanted a moment." He let out a small breath, almost like a scoff, and said, "You ruined my birthday with your agenda." That word hit me like a slap. Agenda. Like I was campaigning. Like I had dragged a microphone into his life to make a point. His sister's mouth fell open. His mom looked like she did not understand the language anymore. Someone near the bar whispered, "Oh my God," and it sounded like they were watching a car accident. Wilder kept going because the silence was feeding him. He said, "This is supposed to be my night, and you made it about you. You could not just let me have one thing." I was still on one knee, still holding the ring box open like an idiot. My legs started to tremble. My throat tightened so hard I could barely breathe. But I did not cry. I did not beg. I did not try to convince him in front of his family. Something in me went very still. I stood up slowly, closed the ring box, and slid it back into my pocket. I looked at Wilder and nodded once, like he had just given me a meeting update. "You're right," I said, "my mistake." He blinked, surprised by how calm I sounded, like he had been ready for a fight, and I gave him a wall instead. I turned to the crowd, to his family and friends, all frozen with second-hand humiliation. "Thank you for coming," I said. "I'm sorry for the confusion. Please enjoy the rest of the party." Then I walked past Wilder without touching him, stepped into the elevator, and watched the doors slide shut on 30 shocked faces. My phone buzzed in my purse immediately, a flood of messages I did not open. I went down to the lobby, walked out into the warm night air, and sat in my car with my hands on the steering wheel until my fingers stopped shaking. That is when the Apple Find My pinged again. Wilder's dot was moving, not toward home, not toward the lobby, but away from the hotel entirely, like he had left the party I paid for, the party his family was still standing in, while they processed what he had just done to me. And somehow, even with my ring still in my pocket and my heart still bruising in real time, my first thought was not why did he reject me. My first thought was, where is he going? I sat there with the engine running, staring at that moving dot like it was a heartbeat I could not control. I should have driven home. I should have blocked him. I should have cried into my steering wheel like a normal person. But my body was running on something colder than emotion. Curiosity, instinct, that ugly little survival skill you learn when you have been blindsided before. The dot turned left, then right again. Not the highway toward our apartment. Not even the streets that would take him to his mom's place. He was heading toward the jewelry district. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like my seatbelt tightened by itself. I told myself 100 explanations. Maybe he was going to return the ring for me, to undo the humiliation he caused. Maybe he was going to buy me something to make up for it. Maybe he was going to talk to someone who could calm him down. But then his dot stopped, and the address that popped up under it was not a jewelry store. It was a bar, a narrow little cocktail place tucked between a pawn shop and a tattoo studio. The kind of place people go when they do not want to be seen. I knew it because Wilder took me there once, months ago, and he had said, "I like this spot because nobody from work comes here." Nobody from work. I swallowed, put my car in drive, and followed from a distance like I was watching my own life through a camera. When I pulled up across the street, I did not get out right away. I did not do the dramatic thing where you storm in and demand answers. I just sat, hands folded, breathing shallow, eyes scanning the entrance. 2 minutes later, Wilder walked out of the shadow of the alley, not stumbling drunk, not confused, not overwhelmed. He looked steady. He looked purposeful. Like the rooftop scene had been a performance he finished and now he was off stage. He held the door open for someone. A woman stepped out behind him. Blonde ponytail, black blazer, heels she was too comfortable in to be wearing for the first time. Wilder leaned in and said something that made her laugh, and he smiled back, easy, familiar. My brain tried to reject what my eyes were seeing. It tried to make it innocent. It tried to make it a coincidence. But then Wilder touched the small of her back as they went inside. Not a friendly touch, not a casual touch, a possessive one. I stared until my vision blurred. My throat filled with heat, And for a second, I thought I might open my door and run across the street like a lunatic. But I did not. I stayed quiet because suddenly, the word agenda made sense. He had won. I drove away before my hands did something stupid. And while I drove, my phone buzzed again and again like it was trying to peel itself out of my purse. I did not answer. I did not read. I did not give anyone the satisfaction of hearing me break. When I finally got home, the apartment felt wrong. Like it belonged to a couple that no longer existed. His boots by the door, his hoodie on the chair, the framed photo of us at his cousin's wedding, both of us smiling like we were safe. I walked straight to the bathroom, turned on the faucet, and stared at my own face in the mirror. My eyes looked too bright. My mouth looked too calm. I whispered, "Okay, Genevieve. Don't react, record." Then I sat at the kitchen table and opened my phone, not to call him, but to collect what my future self would need. The first message I opened was from his sister. "Genevieve, please tell me you're okay. I'm so sorry. This is not what we thought was going to happen. Not what we thought." I stared at those words until my hands stopped shaking. Then I opened the next message, from Wilder. "You embarrassed me. You put me on the spot. You made me look weak in front of my family." I blinked slow. Not one sorry. Not one I panicked. Not even can we talk. Just blame. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. Every part of me wanted to type a paragraph that would scorch the screen. But I did not. I typed one word. "Okay." Then I set my phone down like it was a live wire. A minute later, his mom called. I did not pick up. Not because I hated her. Because if I heard her voice, I might finally cry, and I refused to cry for him until I had all the facts. I opened our shared iCloud album next, the one we used for random photos, grocery lists, screenshots of furniture we liked. And that is when the second twist hit. The album was gone, not deleted from my phone. Gone, like I had been removed. A small notification sat at the top of the screen. "You no longer have access to this shared album." My chest went cold. He was cleaning. He was controlling the narrative already. I did not panic. I opened my email and searched the phrase shared album. There it was, an old email from Apple with the original invite link, still sitting there like a breadcrumb from the past. I clicked it. Access denied. He did not just remove me. He locked it. I stared at my laptop, then slowly leaned back in my chair. People who have nothing to hide do not scramble to erase digital footprints the minute they hurt you. I stood up and walked into the bedroom. I opened his desk drawer, not to snoop like a jealous girlfriend, but to verify what I already suspected. In the back, under a pile of receipts, was a second phone. Not his old phone. Not a work phone with a company logo. A cheap prepaid one. My mouth went dry. I picked it up carefully, like it might burn my skin. The screen lit up with a lock code prompt. I did not try to guess it. I did not want to be the person who becomes the story. I wanted to stay the person who controls it, so I put it back exactly where it was, then took my own phone and opened my notes app. Time, address, bar name, woman description. Second phone location in drawer. Then I did what my job trained me to do when a project goes off the rails. I made a plan. First, finances. I opened our banking app and removed his access from the joint savings account we used for bills. Not because I wanted revenge money. Because I had learned, in one night, that Wilder could turn cold and transactional without warning. Second, the lease. I pulled up our rental portal and confirmed both names were on it. 8 months left. Early termination fee. A number I could pay if I had to. Third, my dignity. I took the ring box out of my purse and placed it on the table like evidence, not a promise. I stared at it until my eyes stopped watering. Then my phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from an unknown number. "You need to stop making him look like a villain. You were selfish. You always do this." I reread it twice. Unknown number. Same tone as Wilder. Same victim language. I opened the details and checked the area code. It was local. I let out a slow breath, then opened Apple Find My again. Wilder's dot was moving away from the bar now, and it was headed straight back toward our apartment. I stood up, walked to the front door, and locked the deadbolt. Not because I was afraid of him hurting me, because I was afraid of myself, letting him talk his way back in before I had the truth pinned down. A few minutes later, there was a soft knock. Not the knock he used when he forgot his keys. Not the playful knock. A careful one. Then his voice, low through the door. "Jen, open up. We need to talk." I did not answer. He tried again, a little sharper. "Genevieve, come on, don't do this." I stayed silent, my back against the wall, heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. Then, right when I thought he might leave, I heard a different sound. A phone camera clicked. My stomach tightened. He was taking a picture of my door. For proof, for a story, for leverage. And that is when my calm finally turned into something else. Not rage. Clarity. Because I suddenly understood. What kind of man I had been planning to marry. His phone camera clicked again, like he was documenting my silence for later. And then he walked down the hall, talking to someone on the phone in that smooth, injured voice he used when he wanted sympathy. I did not open the door. I did not shout through it. I just stood there with my hand on the deadbolt and listened until his footsteps disappeared into the elevator. Then I did one small thing that changed everything. I opened my voice memo app and pressed record, not because I wanted drama, but because I wanted my future to have proof. At 12:17 a.m., I walked to the kitchen, kept the memo running, and spoke softly into my phone like I was reading an incident report. Wilder arrived at the door. He demanded I open. He took photos of the door. He left. I then saved the file with the date and the title and emailed it to myself. My hands were steady now. My heart was not. But I had learned the difference between feelings and decisions. At 12:28 a.m., his mom called again. This time I answered. Her voice cracked immediately. She said she was sorry. She said she did not understand what happened. She said she felt sick that her son's birthday turned into that. I kept my voice calm. I said, I am not angry at you. I need you to listen carefully. Something is going on, and I think he is trying to build a story where I look unstable. She went quiet, like the air had been pulled out of her. Then she said, Genevieve, are you safe? I looked at the locked door. I said, yes. But I need you to do something for me. I need you to tell me if Wilder has been spending time with a coworker named Sloan. I picked the name on purpose, because I wanted to see if she reacted to it. There was a pause, a long one. Then she whispered, oh. That was all it took. I felt a cold line run down my spine, not fear but confirmation. I said, you know her. She said, I met her once, at his work holiday thing. He said she was just on his team. He said she was dating someone. Genevieve, why are you asking me this? I took a slow breath. I told her about the bar. I told her about the woman in the blazer. I told her I saw him touch her like he belonged to her. I did not exaggerate. I did not insult him. I just described what happened, clean and factual. His mom started crying again, but this time it sounded different. Not confused crying, angry crying. She said, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. And then she said the first real twist of the night. She said, he asked me to come early before the surprise. He wanted to talk to me alone. My grip tightened on the phone. I said, about what? She swallowed. I could hear it. She said, he told me if you did something embarrassing tonight, I should not get mad at him. He said you were stressed lately. He said you might try to control the night. My stomach turned. He had planted the seed before I even stepped onto that rooftop. He had already started building a version of me that would justify whatever he wanted to do. I stayed quiet for a moment, letting that sink in. Then I said, thank you for telling me. I am not going to fight him in public. I am going to step away cleanly. But I need you to understand, I am not the person he is describing. She said, I know. And then her voice sharpened. Genevieve, he does not get to do this to you, not in my family. That sentence almost made me cry. Almost. But I kept my face dry. After I hung up, I opened my laptop and did the next quiet thing. I changed every password I could think of. Email, banking, leasing portal, streaming accounts. Even the shared grocery app we used. I removed his access from anything that touched my money or my identity. I did not do it with anger. I did it the same way you shut off water when a pipe is leaking. Fast, clean, necessary. At 1:06 a.m., I heard a key in the lock. Wilder came inside like nothing happened, like he had just stepped out for ice. I stayed in the kitchen, standing, not sitting, because I did not want to look like I was waiting for him. He froze when he saw me. Then he put on that calm face again and said, can we talk now? I kept the voice memo app running in my pocket. I said, you already talked. In front of everyone. You called my proposal an agenda. He exhaled like I was exhausting him. He said, you blindsided me. You made me look weak. You know I hate being put on the spot. I nodded once. I said, you left your own party and went to a bar. His eyes flicked just for a fraction of a second. Then he recovered. He said, I needed air. I said, you were not alone. His jaw tightened. He leaned back against the counter and tried to smile. He said, Genevieve, you are spiraling. This is exactly what I told my mom you might do. My stomach sank, but my hands stayed steady. I said, you told your mom I might embarrass you tonight. He did not answer immediately. That silence was loud. Then he said, I said you have been intense lately. I was protecting you. Protecting me. By pre-blamming me. I did not argue. I just asked one small question. The kind that sounds harmless until it is not. I said, why do you have a second phone in your desk drawer? His face changed so fast it was almost scary. Not anger, not sadness, fear. He pushed off the counter. He said, "What are you talking about? Stop going through my stuff." I shrugged slightly. I said I did not unlock it. I did not need to. I just needed to know it exists. He stepped closer, voice low. He said, "You are acting crazy." There it was, the word he wanted, the label he wanted to stick on me. I let him have it. I smiled anyway. I said, "Okay. If I am crazy, this will be easy for you. Pack a bag, leave tonight. I will email the landlord in the morning to start the lease termination. You can tell everyone I overreacted. You can tell them I am unstable, but you are not staying here." He blinked, stunned, because he expected tears. He expected begging. He expected me to chase him. Instead, I gave him logistics. He tried a different tactic. His voice softened. He said, "Genevieve, you are throwing away 4 years because of one moment." I looked at him and felt something strange. Not love, not hate, just distance. I said, "You threw it away when you pre-warned your mother I might embarrass you, then waited until a crowd was watching to call me selfish. That was not one moment. That was a plan." His nostrils flared. He said, "You're being dramatic." I said, "No, I'm being accurate." He stared at me for a long time. Then he grabbed his keys and walked toward the bedroom like he was going to pack. But instead of packing, he opened his closet, pulled out a duffel bag, and then said something that proved my suspicion in the worst way. He said, "If you try to tell people lies about me, I will show them the photos I took tonight. I will show them how you locked me out. I will show them how you refused to talk." I felt my mouth go dry. He really thought the door photo was a weapon. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone, screen already open. I kept my voice calm. I said, "I have a voice recording of everything you just said, including you calling me crazy, including you threatening to use photos to control the story." He froze. His face went pale, then tight like he was swallowing glass. He said, "You recorded me." I nodded. I said I did, because you already tried to rewrite me to your mother, and I am done being rewritten. He stood there, silent, calculating, and I watched the gears turn behind his eyes. Then suddenly his shoulders slumped like he was switching masks. He said, "Fine, you want the truth. I did not want to marry you." There it was, clean, brutal. I waited. He took a breath and kept going like he could not stop once he started. He said, "You are safe. You are stable. You are predictable. But you do not make me feel powerful. And lately I have been feeling trapped." My chest hurt, but my face stayed still. I said, "So you plan to humiliate me?" He shook his head, but his eyes did not match it. He said, "I did not plan it like that. I just knew if you tried something big, I had to shut it down. Otherwise, everyone would expect me to say yes. And I could not." So that was the real agenda. He wanted a public rejection that would make him look like the victim. He wanted a scene that would force me to either explode or disappear. Either way, he could point and say, "See, she is too much." I swallowed. I said, "And the woman at the bar." His lips pressed together. He hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. He said, "It is not serious." That was his confession. Not serious means yes, but do not make me pay for it. I nodded slow. I said, "Pack your bag, leave." He stared like he wanted to fight, but he was out of leverage now. He picked up the duffel bag, stuffed random clothes into it with jerky movements, then walked to the door. Before he left, he turned and said, "You are going to regret doing this." I looked at him, and for the first time all night, I let my voice turn sharp. I said, "No, you are." He left. The door clicked shut. The apartment went quiet. I stood there for a full minute, listening to the silence like it was a new language. Then I did the final part of my quiet revenge. I did not blast him online. I did not call his coworkers. I did not send the recording to anyone. I just sent one email to the leasing office, requesting early termination and removal of my name, and I attached proof of my payment history. Then I sent a second email to myself with the voice memo file. In the morning, I returned the ring, not because I felt ashamed, because I refused to keep any object tied to a man who used my love as a stage prop. 2 weeks later, the lease was settled. His mom helped cover his half of the termination fee, not for him, but to get me out clean. His sister picked up his remaining boxes while I was at work. I never saw him again. I heard through his mother that the coworker, Sloan, stopped answering his calls the moment she realized he was single for the wrong reason. Turns out she liked the idea of a taken man chasing her. She did not like the reality of him. And the best part is, I did not have to expose anything. All I did was stop protecting his image. The last time I checked Apple Find My, his dot was gone from my map. He called my proposal an agenda, so I calmly removed his access to my life, and that was the end.